everyone, Ann Wyatt here, Vice President of Client Success for Health Fitness. Welcome to the Health Fitness Podcast. We are kicking off year 2 of the Health Fitness Podcast and exploring the industry trends we're watching closely this year. And of course, that includes technology. So a decade ago, fitness and wellness looked very different. Fewer apps, less data, a lot more guesswork. Today, technology is increasingly shaping decisions we make about our health. My guest today for this episode developed some of the platforms that actually define this shift. Russell Cook is joining me. He's the co-founder and president of Fit On Health. That's a leading digital health and preventive care platform. And Health Fitness actually happens to use that. So we're very excited that he's joining us today. And I think, Russell, it's probably safe to say you're a serial entrepreneur as well. You're passionate about health and wellness, and not to mention, you also founded All Trails, which is the #1 outdoor app. So welcome.
Thanks so much for having me today.
Well, Russell, why don't I come right out of the gate? I have a fun question for you. As someone who's been around the industry and you've seen trends come and go, what is one that you'd love to see come back?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's been, I don't want to date myself, but I've been in and around the health and wellness category now for almost 25 years. And it feels like, fitness is generally trendy, different trends every year. You went through some funny stuff in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's fun when you see things, something that was very popular 20 years ago, but went out of trend, then comes back in, and everyone kind of rushes around it. So I think, when you look at things like jazzercise and other things that existed and were big in the 90s, and you're talking to people in their 20s now, there's things like that, in different places have come back either in their original form or in variations of it. And people discover it as a completely new thing and something that's, helping drive their health and wellness.
Right. I love it. All right. Well, why don't we get started? I'd love you to start kind of at the beginning. Tell us about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, my background has been mostly on the consumer side of the business, really focused on getting large populations healthy and active. And so,
Mhm.
really, the original idea and genesis for Fit On came from my co-founder Lindsay and her experience working at Fitbit, where she helped run the consumer business for them.
Got it.
And if you hear her tell it, one of her biggest frustrations was always they'd come out with a new device. Everyone was super excited. At that point, it already looked 18 months old because just the hardware business has
Moves that
really
fast.
slow
Yeah.
iteration cycles. So between that issue and also the fact that there was a cost to hardware, so it really limited the audience
Yeah.
and the reach that you could have with it. So as she was leaving Fitbit, we were putting our heads together and really trying to figure out how do you get hundreds of millions of people more active and healthy. And
Mhm.
digital just really enables that power, and the combination of digital plus in-person fitness in particular. So as we started thinking about the original concept for Fit On, we started the business focused specifically on consumers,
Mhm.
and really trying to engage consumers, and always had a mindset going into building this business is how could Fit On be the best companion, kind of digital health companion for people in combination with all the physical activity they were doing in their gyms, the outdoor activities, and help kind of lead them to think about fitness a little bit every single day and really
Mhm.
do it in small steps. So instead of doing these crash diets or these things that you're
Yeah.
trying to lose 30 pounds in a month, how can you add these little tiny changes in your overall behaviors that over time just help you be healthier, more active? Also, we know all the mental health benefits for what you do from a physical perspective. And so the focus was really in bringing all that together in one digital platform that was
Mhm.
super engaging and that anyone could really, interact with.
Got it. And you talked about large populations that you're working with, but you didn't start with employee wellness, is my understanding. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, we started purely on the consumer side. This
Mhm.
is back in 2018, and so at that point, the main products in the category when we were first looking out, it was pretty funny actually. Like a lot of the products were like animated gifs of people doing sit-ups and other things,
Yeah, yeah.
and the engagement with these products was insanely low. And I think that's one of the big questions we had was, is it a product or content problem on why you didn't see people engaging and sticking with these things over a long period of time,
Hmm.
or was it just something in the category or around general consumer behavior? And so we had a number of different ideas that we wanted to test out. So, really, our first year after launching the company was about iterating super quickly on the content, on the product
Hmm.
itself, and trying to figure out, could we crack that code where you get people coming back, you get people engaging, and doing that over a longer period of time. And by the end of that first year, we had driven about 4x industry average engagement and retention on the platform. And then within the second year of the company, we had gotten that up to 6x. And
Right.
so, it was really hundreds of different tests that we had, just trying different ideas, talking with customers, understanding what they were liking and not liking, and also thinking about the personalization. So when you come on to Fit On today, the experience you have if you're a 20-year-old is completely different than the experience you have if you're a 65 or 70-year-old coming to the
Right.
platform. And it's personalized based on everything
Hmm.
we know about you.
And so when you think about the problems you were trying to solve, it was really around engagement, but what else?
Yeah, it was trying to figure out, like, I think one idea that people could have coming into the category at that time was, let's try to replicate in-person fitness. So those
Hmm.
45-minute or hour classes, let's go film those because
Yeah,
that's what people like doing, and let's put that on digital. And I think a lot of companies tried that approach initially.
sure.
And I think that going into it, that was one of our ideas, was like, is that the right format, or are there other formats we should really explore? In 2026, I think we all know, given the success of TikTok and
Yeah,
YouTube Shorts and Instagram Stories, like it seems strange to be talking about that, but at the time, there was really a question mark around it. So we tested a variety of things, and what we quickly found was, when if someone wanted to do 45 minutes of activity, the best way to get them into that wasn't necessarily a 45, getting them to commit up front to a 45-minute class or digital workout. A lot of times, what I think one of the big secret sauces to what we were able to build is, we built this kind of like snackable content that was a mix between fitness and entertainment, honestly. And they may
right,
come
right.
in for that 10 or 15-minute little snack, but then at the end of it, we're recommending other things. And before they know it, they've been working out for 45 minutes or an hour, but it's super engaging. And it feels like, you're having a one-on-one experience versus this, drawn out thing that you're committing to up front.
Yeah, I love that. I have to ask the question, how did you come up with the name Fit On?
Yeah, it's a great question, and so I've got to give a hat tip to Shah Ediladi, who was one of our first employees of the company. He
Mhm.
was formerly head of design at Fitbit, so he wasn't an employee at the time when we were starting it. He was helping us craft the overall kind of like look and feel of the product, and we were going back and forth on a number of different names. Some with fit in the title, some
Mhm.
kind of more broad. And he was the one that actually presented it. And the more that we kind of put together what we wanted the company to represent, how we wanted people to feel. It just started kind of like sticking in everything we were doing in the business,
Right,
and it's proved out to be a fantastic boon. But it's now grown to over 20 million members
right,
worldwide. Massive amounts of usage, really great brand awareness, number one product across Google Play, iOS, always ranked number one by Forbes and other folks that look at the category. And so I think the brand, it's not all the
yeah.
brand, but certainly the brand is a part of what we're trying to build in combination of the content and the product.
So you've had it out there for a little bit now. What has surprised you most about users or clients over the years? Or have you come across any unexpected insights, or is it you knew what was going to happen?
No, I think a lot of how we build products at FitOn is listening to our customers, listening to our clients, seeing what they're using today, what is and isn't working for them, looking at competitors in the category. Part of my job is everything new that hits the market, I always get an early look at.
Uh-huh.
I mentor a lot of other founders, given my background and all the people that have mentored me over the years. So a lot of the new health and wellness and fitness products, I get access to when they're kind of in the idea stage. I think
Right.
there's people in life, right, that look at everything as like, zero sum, like either you win, everyone else has to lose. I think this is a huge category
Yeah.
between Lindsay and I. Like, we are super passionate about health and fitness. We feel like it's a massive market, obviously,
Right.
and that can have a massive impact on society. And so we want to see all of these new and innovative products. And so really looking across them, we've learned a ton. But that fast iteration on our own products and taking in customer feedback. So we do that both via kind of like analytics and data. So we're able
Right.
to quickly see now at our scale, we can roll something out and within a matter of hours know whether or not this is working or not. So we do these fast iterative tests, incorporating ideas from our team, from our clients, from end members on the platform,
Right.
as well as just thinking ahead. One of the things, I started my career at Microsoft, and I remember one of the big things that I learned out of my role there was, you can't ask the customer what the right solution is. You need to understand their problems and what they're trying to achieve, because they don't know necessarily what's possible from a technology perspective. And they really
Right.
drilled that into us on everything that we did. And I think, especially when you think about mobile, the emergence of AI and other things, that's even more true, where think about the problem, think about what they're trying to do, and then figure out how can technology be an enabler to that.
Right. That's great. So you talk about this iterative process. I guess my question for you would be: are there solutions or features that fit on offers that you didn't plan on originally? I'm guessing it has to have evolved over time.
Absolutely. I think, when we started out, we were very kind of fitness focused.
Yeah.
And nutrition was an area that Lindsay and I were both very passionate about. We didn't know if that was going to have a natural home within what we were building at FitOn at the time. And I think the more we talked with customers and members, that intricate link between, fitness, nutrition, and health and
Mhm.
wellness, it's inextricably linked, and trying to do one without the other was just, it didn't feel complete. And I think one of the
Right.
things that, where the platforms evolve now, we have not only fitness, but meditation, also sleep related content, nutrition, this kind of like holistic wellness platform, kind of preventive care platform in your pocket, is something that was really driven by working with our clients, working with members, and seeing what they wanted. And I think there was, if you look across the category, one of the challenges, especially as we got into the healthcare and enterprise space, was there was all these point solutions, and having these disparate point solutions that all had very low engagement
Mhm.
individually made it very difficult to be able to drive outcomes, for people to be able to be engaged. They had to learn how to use 5 or 6 different products, and they didn't talk to each other. And they really, wanted to just think about their health and wellness as a single thing. So being able to now have that all integrated with your data coming from your wearables,
Right.
plus anything that you may be doing in your gym or in different areas of your life, that has had not only a great impact on driving outcomes, but also just making it simpler and easier for people.
So obviously, technology plays such an important role in the big scope of things. What is the sweet spot, though, between technology and human touch? And I'll add a second follow-up question to that. On that flip side, are there areas where technology should just step aside and let humans do their magic, or are you thinking it needs to look differently than that?
Yeah, this is a question I got all the time at All Trails. When it was talking about technology related to the outdoors,
Right,
and then is very applicable also for Fit On as well. So I think, the way that we look at it, is it's very important for us as humans and society, right, to have all of those personal connections.
right,
Thinking that, fitness aside for a second, thinking that we're going to ever move to a world where that isn't important, and the in real life in-person experience doesn't matter, and you can replace that with technology or AI or whatever else comes out in the future. I think
right.
it's not understanding humans as a species.
Yeah, yeah,
So, really, a lot of the motivation we get in life is around our social interactions and things we're doing not on a digital platform. And it's interesting because, one of the things that you hear come up in a number of contexts around wellness is people feeling disconnected,
yeah.
increases of depression and social isolation in different groups. And so as you look at those things, I think a lot of that stems back to just people kind of being more immersed in these social platforms and in digital technology.
Right.
And my question for folks always is like, what would happen if you just took away their phone for a week? How would they feel
Right.
the week after that? And so I think we think a lot about that in our design process. How can we be part of their overall health and wellness, but
Hmm.
not do it in a way where we're overwhelming them in technology and having
Right.
them just doing it all, in isolation. So how can you enable them to have the best in-person fitness experiences? How can we get them outdoors? How can we get them thinking differently about the food they're eating, either making at home or when they go out? And then, in addition to what can we do from a digital perspective to engage them, but then also helping them disconnect in the right ways.
And it's a true companion, and I love that that's how you described it early on. So, when you think about the industry, do you see the industry moving more towards personalization, more automation? Do you think it's a mix of both?
When you look at most platforms in the health and wellness category, when they talk about personalization, it's very, very light. And it's really just, do I turn on this thing? Do I turn off that thing?
Right.
And the amount of actual personalization is very minimal. So when you look at AI, I think that's one of the things that has emerged as AI has gotten more capable over the last 18 months, especially. There's a whole different level you can get to from a personalization perspective. So,
Mhm.
when we had built Fit On, we knew deep levels of personalization were really important, especially given how broad our audience was. We always thought, more broadly about it as how do we help enable employers? How do we think
Mhm.
about it for Medicare populations, right? For people in their 60s and 70s. So that requires a very deep level of personalization. And so we had built a lot of that into the platform.
Right.
Initially when someone comes in, we get obviously kind of like high level information, but then quickly we're leveraging data from connected wearables, the activity they're doing on and off platform, and really making a deep level of personalization. So it feels like, they can literally open the product, click a button, and know they're going to have a great experience. One of the challenges, if you look, 5 or 10 years ago, or as if people wanted a digital kind of fitness experience, some people would go to YouTube and they'd search for
Yeah.
15, 20, 30 minutes to find a 10 or
Not a great
15-minute
experience.
workout.
Right,
Exactly. And
right,
so
right.
when we were initially building the platform, how can we get rid of all that decision anxiety and build something where they can come in, and if they have a 10 to 15-minute break in the middle of the day, they can just open it, hit a button, and not even have to think about it, and know that they're going to have a great experience.
Right. Well, and it sounds like the way you mentioned AI, it's really just driving a lot of how you're pushing things out to the people and helps with that personalization. Am I missing anything else from an AI perspective, or that kind of it in a nutshell?
Yeah, well, there's a combination of things because you can use it in different ways, right? We
Mhm.
see the emergence of things like ChatGPT and chatbots.
Right.
A lot of people initially just like dropped the chatbot in their product, which was not
Yeah.
necessarily the approach that I would take in their shoes. I think what you're seeing now, with a lot of products and where that market's going, is using it in two ways, right? One, using it on the back end, almost like people were using machine learning, 3 or 4 years ago,
Mhm.
to be able to look across a broader set of data and then come back with more personalized recommendations. But then, secondarily, looking at it, to be able to like engage. I think where it hasn't gone yet, and where we're personally excited and we're spending more time from an R&D perspective and a development perspective as our platform evolves, is how can you have it really be like a health coach in your pocket, like your friend, right?
Right,
So
right.
instead of it being just transactional, like I have a question, that's a lot of the ways people are using their chat GPT today. They have a doctor's appointment coming up, or they get a test result and they want some more info about it, or they have a specific health question, they ask the question, they get a response. Instead of that, how can you have something that's kind of knows your health and wellness from a
Mhm.
deep perspective, and is constantly thinking about and noticing trends and making recommendations to help hold you accountable, to
Right.
give you ideas, to help be there as you have those questions, and is more proactively reaching out to you, not in an annoying way, but as if you had your own personal trainer.
Where do you see the biggest opportunities in the wellness space as we look forward?
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm most excited about right now is just the shift in the conversation over the last year or so, in not only the wellness category but overall in healthcare. We've
Yeah.
got. I was recently, speaking on a panel at the Maha Summit in DC, and I think one of the big challenges that a lot of folks there were talking about is, in the U.S., healthcare costs is now $5 trillion a year, and
Mm.
and it's got its lowest approval rating.
Yeah.
It's not like, for $5 trillion, we're spending that much. You think we would have the best healthcare in the world, and we don't. And so, how do we tackle that problem head on? And I think what was traditionally thought of as wellness or a nice to have is now getting part of the conversation and realizing, like, you're not going to be able to tackle that $5 trillion problem unless you think about preventive care. So, what are
Mm.
those things that you can be doing proactively, some of which had traditionally been thought of as wellness, so that folks are getting ahead of these problems, that they don't get into this place. We're a sick care system today in the US, and preventive care is a huge part of how we can drive that 5 trillion down to 4.5 and 4 over the next 3 to 5 years. And you're seeing that shift in CMS, from an overall Medicare and Medicaid perspective. You're starting to see more of the conversation shift that we have with large healthcare leaders. They're thinking about this differently. Part of those costs shifting to getting into the medical loss ratio. So instead of it being an administrative or kind of secondary cost that they think about, it goes into that same bucket that they have for primary care or surgery or other things, and being able to leverage preventive care so that people don't get to that place. There's things we can be doing way farther upstream and investing in those areas and making sure that new innovative companies or even innovation within existing healthcare companies.
Sure. All right. So, Russell, look ahead for me. Where do you see Fit On 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road? If that may be too much, too far down, 'cause things change all the time. But what are you thinking? Where's Fit On going?
Yeah, I mean, we're on our side, we're always been super passionate about trying to make it a ubiquitous service across hundreds of millions of people. I think at this point, given what we've been able to build from a technology perspective, part of that is obviously what we're doing with the platform, but also part of it's doing, working with partners like HealthFitness, working with these health plans that have large populations, and really trying to change the conversation. So, in addition to what we can bring from a platform perspective and engagement perspective with their members, helping, really having them think about it differently and investing in it differently, and investing in their people and making sure that it's not just something that they have to go bribe them to do. It's part of the company culture, it's part of the national conversation. And one of the things that I think is always crazy is if you go to a doctor, they can prescribe you medicine, they can prescribe you to another doctor. There's no way for them today to be able to prescribe fitness, right? Or to
Right.
prescribe nutrition. And so being able to think about that differently, what innovative solutions can you have? How can you get that to primary care and other places that are way farther upstream, that have more one-on-one touch with patients, and making it more part of their lifestyle? We work with 20,000 gyms across the U.S. And also, as we look across them and what they're trying to do, they are also uniquely positioned to help a large number of people. But today, there really isn't that connection between healthcare and the gym. So if we can be part of working with partners to enable that, it's certainly something that we're passionate about and working really hard every day to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think you are making such an impact. I mean, I've looked at your utilization and your engagement. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's great, and ridiculous in the best way, right? So I'm so excited that you're really starting to make strides in helping the populations out there, and specifically in the employer space where we're focused on for sure. So I want to ask you. You talked a little bit about, I think, being a mentor early on in our discussion today. What advice would you give to organizations or leaders that are trying to support employee wellness in meaningful ways?
Yeah, I think a lot of those conversations that we're having with large employers today. is really thinking about that wellness as part of their overall healthcare initiatives. Healthcare costs have been continuing to run out of control. You have the emergence of GLP-1s, and some companies are offering them already. Some companies are considering it, but really scared about some of the horror stories with it.
Yeah.
So they're facing real problems. So as they're thinking about all of those things together, I think tying them into an overall comprehensive solution, trying to figure out how to drive better health outcomes for their employees, how to drive fewer sick days, how to have more motivated employees, thinking about it comprehensively together as a solution.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this trend for a while now, but
Sure.
having a lot of different point solutions hasn't been working, right? So I think if you think about, whatever you're doing, and investing in from a health and well-being perspective, with your between your health insurance and what you're investing in individually, as an employer, and also pushing back on your health plan, right?
Right.
I think if I was, in the shoes of an HR benefits leader today, I would really be pushing my health plan to include more preventive care in
Sure.
the overall solution, so that it's really tied together and isn't disparate, so we can think about more comprehensive,
Mm-hmm.
health and well-being, and being able to drive costs down over time to help our employees be healthier, and to also help us control costs over time.
Well, I am on board with that. All right. So, my last formal question as part of the topic here: what excites you most about the fitness and wellness industry?
Yeah, I mean, from my side, I'm more excited now than I've ever been. I feel
Yeah.
like the national conversation around so many things that were kind of being talked about in isolation years ago has really changed, especially over the last year or two. So that has me personally excited about. I think a couple years ago, looking at the obesity trends and other things, there was a lot of reasons to be, for people to be depressed or feel like it was so complicated. How are we ever going to tackle this
Yeah.
problem? I think the problem now is very much out in the open, and people are talking about it comprehensively and really trying to drive solutions. And health plans know that they need to start looking at things differently, because employers and the end health plan members are demanding it. And that there's not going to be, there's no longer a time of like small little changes to help improve things. Like, we need to be looking as a country and a society, and then also internationally. This is not just a problem in the U.S. You see this similarly in the UK, and in a number of countries in Europe and Australia. So this is an international problem that we need to be tackling, and it's really, it's about getting back to fundamentals,
Yeah.
right? It's about how can you eat better and move more,
Keep it
really, and
simple.
and it's that simple.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you can think comprehensively, like, what are the things that you can provide as an employer, as a health plan, for health fitness, or for us as a company? How
Hmm.
can we help people do those two things, and make those two things more part of their lifestyle, and be a solution that's, again, not only working with the members individually, but also working within the larger health system as well.
Right. Well, Russell, I could talk to you all day about this because it's fascinating to learn everything about the product and you and the journey. But I do want to ask you a couple questions about how you take care of yourself, because I think that's always
Sure.
fun. So, what is your favorite workout right now?
I'm a big outdoors guy, so
Do you,
I'm
wait a
I'm
minute.
I'm a little bit biased.
Do you use an app called All Trails by
I
chance?
the, I think there's one out there that some people use for it. I'm a big outdoors guy, so hiking, mountain biking. I also, the emergence of a lot of boutique fitness, across the U.S. is been fantastic for
Yeah.
me, and really keeps me motivated. And then, I've always been a gym guy as well, so
Okay.
I love getting into the gym. And one of the great things about our platform is, since we work with a lot of different gym partners, wherever I travel in the US, I can quickly pop in and get a day pass to any of our gym partners, which is
Nice.
really fun.
That's excellent. All right. What is your favorite healthy snack?
Um, it's less exciting, but I eat a lot of pistachios.
Do you
I don't
like
know.
the
I don't know if I need
flavored
to get
ones?
sponsored, but
Do you like those flavored ones, or do you like straight up plain old pistachios?
I go for the low sodium ones. I don't go
Okay.
for the crazy flavors, so I'm probably less interesting from that perspective.
That's all good and better for your health, right? All right, last one. What is your favorite way to recover or recharge?
Yeah, I over the last few years, I think one of the, and we see it on our platform as well, the emergence of a number of these studios around stretch
Mm,
has just really taken off, and I think that's one of the ways that even for me personally, outside of getting out and just being active, that's
yeah,
certainly one of the major ways, but for me, like being able to stretch after those and just make sure, especially as I age and I'm getting older and
yeah,
trying to prevent injuries. I'm always really motivated by seeing these folks when I'm out skiing or mountain biking or whatever, that are in their 70s and 80s still doing these activities, and in many ways running rings around me and other folks like half their age. So I think about a lot about longevity and things I need to do, and I think that's certainly part of my routine in order to do it, hopefully.
Well, you sound like you walk the talk, so that's great. Well, listen, Russell, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us today. I'm so excited to see the future of Fit On and all the things you're going to bring to light here and help continue to impact our population out there, especially the health fitness clients that we have. So I can't thank you enough. And thank you to our audience for listening in. And I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found today's discussion both thought provoking and enjoyable. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe and share this episode with your colleagues and friends. We'd really love for you to stay connected with us. Until next time, take care, stay active, and stay curious.